Shout out to Bring Our Q, Julius, you legend. We're going to do a joint interview, yeah? Yeah, we'll do a joint interview, Julius. Thanks for the support. You're a legend. From your girls, Raven and Ellie.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. News broke earlier today that Anthony Joshua has now been sent his contract for the Tyson Fury fight on December 3rd at the Principality Stadium. Frank Warren has declared. Warren said, now we wait for them to go through them and sign so we can get one of the biggest events in British boxing. A bit of a surreal year in the sport. That we got the long-awaited, long-anticipated fight between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano.
And it actually lived up to the hype.
Other big fights like Joshua versus Usyk. Meaningful fights like Charlo versus Castaño 2.
Canelo versus Golovkin 3 this weekend.
Chocolatito versus Estrada 3 later on this year. The long-awaited, long-anticipated showdown between Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields with the co-main event, Alicia Baumgartner versus Michaela Mayer.
And there were other great fights in between, like Lee Wood versus Mick Conlon.
Big fights. Meaningful ones like Canelo versus Bivol and Bivol versus Ramirez set to go down later on this year.
The undisputed bantamweight title fight between Naoya Inoue the Monster and Paul Butler, reigning WBO champion.
It's been a very big year, and this news just adds to it, though in truth, this still is a very inopportune time for Anthony Joshua to take on Tyson Fury. I can't overlook that. Of course, this fight retains a lot, and I mean a lot, of commercial value because of Anthony Joshua's fans in the UK as well as Tyson Fury's fans.
Oh, it's still a big fight, a very big fight. We can dub this the year of big fights in the sport of boxing.
The year of the big fight, and this still is a very big fight in spite of Anthony Joshua coming right off of 2 consecutive losses. That goes without saying.
Commercially, you can understand why such a fight might be appealing.
But it's not exactly the best time to do this fight. Not the best time for everyone involved, I should say. Coming off of 2 consecutive losses, having fought a little over 3 weeks ago. Anthony Joshua took on Alexander Usyk and lost to him, only for him to go into yet another major fight with another top 2 heavyweight in the world. It's between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury at this point. Who you want to rate at number 1 and who you want to rate at number 2, that likely varies from person to person, but they're both the number 1 and number 2 guys. That much we can
all agree on.
And for Anthony Joshua to have already taken on one of the number 1 and number 2 guys in the division just a little over 3 weeks ago, to go right into another fight with another top 2 heavyweight in the division, it goes without saying that
I'm not going to pretend that this isn't a bad idea for Anthony Joshua. It most certainly is. I'm not going to pretend that this is how these things are done.
This ain't how things are done. You don't lose 2 back-to-back fights and then go into a fight like this with any real aspirations of succeeding.
You know what you normally see in a sport. You suffer 2 losses like Anthony suffered, you get yourself a rebound fight so you can get yourself back in the winner's bracket, get your confidence back.
That's how it's done. Tyson Fury means to deprive Anthony Joshua of that opportunity, which is customary, by the way. He means to catch him at the most opportune time to catch him, and I'm not going to pretend that I don't see that. I see it.
And you do too. Don't pretend that you don't.
You do. We all do. This fight will appeal most to the Tyson Fury side of things and his faction of fans who want him to dispose of Anthony Joshua, even if it's at a most inopportune time to take him on. It's not a contest they're looking for. They know that Anthony Joshua's down.
You know what normally makes a fight attractive is you want to see the best guys versus the best guys.
So are we pretending that Anthony Joshua's at his best right now, right here and right now, coming off of 2 consecutive losses, having last seen action just a little over 3 weeks ago? We're going to pretend that Anthony Joshua's at his best?
He isn't.
No, he's not. We all know he's not. So does Tyson Fury, and that's why he wants him.
Dice told you he was throwing shit at a wall, hoping something would stick.
It looks like something did. Using public demand and pressure and Anthony Joshua's own pride as a fighter to not shy away from a challenge, even if it's at a most inopportune time to take one on. Tyson Fury...
I mean, that's why he called him out. He probably wasn't expecting him to accept all of his terms
on this kind of time frame. this kind of window to do this kind of fight, Tyson Fury probably issued out that public challenge expecting that Anthony Joshua would get out of it, expecting that he might reject it. I still don't believe Tyson Fury issued out that challenge expecting that both Anthony and Eddie would make it this easy for him, because they're making it very easy.
My honest opinion is Fury didn't expect Anthony to agree to all his terms and say yes, he'll fight him on the 3rd.
I feel like Fury and Frank were expecting a little bit more static, a little bit more resistance, and Anthony and Eddie are making things very easy for them, agreeing to all of these terms when they could have just as easily said, no, it's a most inopportune time for us, and we're not looking to fight for a title in the next 1 or 2 fights, and that would have been perfectly permissible.
Had they went that direction, Fury likely would have publicly lambasted them for it, and I think that's what he was really shooting for. I don't think he was banking on this.
I don't think that he was expecting them to agree to it. And that's how we got here. I mean, that's where we are with all of this. Frank has sent the contract out. They're going to look over it and see if they agree with everything in it. And
let's see if we don't have a fight. It's been a surreal year of boxing so far.
If we do end up getting Crawford versus Spence and this fight to cap off the year in the final month of it, that would be in keeping with the theme we've been seeing in the year of 2022 in the sport of boxing so far. Though I won't lie to you, not going to, it really is the most inopportune time for Anthony to take on a fight like this, and that's exactly why Fury offered it to him. Because he knows that.
It was never his intention to face Anthony Joshua at his best.
I'm not going to pretend that it was to make you feel better about it. I'm looking at the situation for what it is, and Tyson Fury for what he is. Just in keeping with the theme of men's heavyweight news, yet another guy who's got a lot to say about Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, says, I'm not going to rob the fans from not making that fight happen.
More empty promises from the guy who used to say one face, one name, one champion,
and subsequently never went on to unify anything. Former champion Deontay Wilder was quoted as saying, I mean, right now we're handling what we've got to do over here. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm back. So there's no fights that's going to be non-negotiable to have, or that it's going to be non-existent, Wilder told Brian Custer on the Last Stand podcast. No matter how I feel or how they feel, because I can always go back on the run in the past. Like I said, like the saying is, I may not remember your name, but I never forget how you made me feel.
You know, Deontay brought up his infamous $50 million email.
His $50 million email offer with monies that were supposed to be coming from BT Sport.
You and Shelley Finkel, are you been privy to negotiations between Team Wilder and Team Joshua? The first I heard of it today was that you were privy to that due to a wanting from BT to potentially put the Wilder-Joshua fight on BT. The fact that Team Wilder or Shelley Finkel were buying the rights to the fight. I didn't know that. Explain how that side of things works.
Well, that's what they were doing. They offered the the guarantee of the 50 and the 30 on the strength of buying the rights to put the fight on.
When you dissected it and what it was just kind of like a rights fee. We own you for this amount of money, but the issue that I had is I've got long-standing contracts in places with certain partnerships.
Now, I'm sure if I'd have been in Hearn's position, I wanted to fight, and I'd say, well, no, it's got to go on Sky. But the fact was, that was the conversations I was having with Shelley. We wanted to get it out. We wanted to put the fight on BT, and we had all the
As I recall, that's what old Fish Eyes Frank Warren said about it at the time. The conversations that him and Shelley had. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Anthony Joshua wasn't legally at liberty to accept money from BT because he was exclusively contracted to Sky.
Let's not rehatch that same old can of worms. If you don't know by now that offer was a bluff.
If you haven't connected the dots and you haven't put that together yourself yet, lack the mental capacity in order to do so, I'm not going to waste time on you. In fact, nobody should.
You're too stupid and you're beyond saving.
When we tried to make that fight happen, they ran from us, Wilder said. I don't make no lies up. People can believe what they want, whatever. But I see it today. I will stand on 10 toes on everything. They know it too. I even lowered myself to 12 million flat. You understand me? Why they're giving a champion who hasn't even proven himself 33%. You tell me a 50 million guarantee, and the main thing his promoter says is, oh, he's from Alabama. Motherfucker, this dude from Alabama don't ever have to fight a day ever again. How about that? How about that? How about that?
Yeah, and Anthony Joshua still made made substantially more money than you did, so what's your point?
The only way that Deontay Wilder can rehatch this conversation is to remove all context from it. He said he accepted the $12 million offer. He said he lowered himself.
Let me refresh your memory about a few things that Deontay Wilder's not saying.
When Eddie Hearn made Deontay Wilder that offer in April of 2018, Deontay had just boxed Luis Ortiz the month before in March. And that wasn't a pay-per-view, you understand. That was a regular old Showtime fight on regular old Showtime. And Deontay made a reported purse of approximately $2 million. $2 million.
Wasn't a box office fight. He wasn't a box office fighter. He hadn't even debuted on pay-per-view yet.
No, he didn't debut on pay-per-view till later on that year with Tyson Fury. That was his pay-per-view debut. And even for that debut, he wasn't guaranteed for that Tyson Fury fight what Eddie Hearn offered him for that Anthony Joshua fight. At the time that Eddie Hearn offered him the $12 million flat, Deontay Wilder's highest recorded purse was what he just made for Luis Ortiz, which was roughly $2 million. $2 million. Eddie Hearn offered you 6 times that amount of money. What were you expecting him to offer you? You weren't a pay-per-view fighter in America.
He's supposed to break the bank to get you in the ring when your highest recorded purse was $2.1 million?
Charles Martin made 3 times as much money, a little over 3 times as much, boxing Anthony Joshua than Deontay Wilder's highest recorded purse at the time.
They offered you 6 times the money you've ever made for a fight, and you rejected that.
So that you can turn around and claim that they were running from you? No, you priced yourself out, my friend. And every offer they made you after that was bigger than the last, and bigger
than what you were making at the time. Those are the facts.
Don't forget, he accepted a meager $4 million up front. $4 million guaranteed for a Tyson Fury fight, but he turned his nose up at $12 million for an Anthony Joshua fight.
That's what he was guaranteed for the first Fury fight, which he accepted that same year. Not 5, not 10, not 12.
$4 million. $4 million up front with a pay-per-view upside, which in all likelihood...
With the upside, he probably made at or around what Eddie Hearn was going to give him up front.
So who ran from who? You rejected $12 million up front for $4 million up front. Deontay Wilder continued, but like I said, I'm still in this business, Wilder said. If he, Joshua, still in the business and I'm still in the business, of course some things can happen. We'll see what happens. The future is bright. I'm willing and able for any and everyone up in the heavyweight division. You know what I mean? I want to make that perfectly clear. I still want to whoop that ass, too.
Empty promises. More empty promises like the one name, one face, one champion gimmick.
Only so that he could be the one champion in this era that wasn't a unified champion. Usyk's a unified champion, Anthony Joshua before him, and Andy Ruiz.
Even if it was just for 10 seconds, he was actually a unified champion. Wilder wasn't.
Tyson Fury, he became a unified champion when he beat Vladimir Klitschko. Seems to me that out of every heavyweight champion in this era that became a heavyweight champion, Wilder was the only one that never unified.
Oh, well, Joseph Parker never unified either, but then again, Joseph Parker wasn't running around saying, one face, one name, one champion.
One guy who's full of shit and a fuck ton of excuses, a fuck ton of empty promises. Andy Ruiz, for sure, Wilder admitted. For the simple fact, like I said, we're with the same people. When you are with the same people, it's always easier than when you're dealing with somebody else, especially somebody else from a different country and stuff like that, Still, Wilder wants to make it clear that he is still keen on fighting Joshua. The question for Wilder is if Joshua feels the same way. Now, we have no choice, maybe. Wilder said of the showdown with Joshua, we'll see. I'm not going to rob the fans from not making that fight happen. I definitely want that fight to happen. I just want to know if they're for real.
Ain't you the same guy that admitted that Eddie Hearn recently reached out to you guys? And what did you say?
Oh, you want to know what Wilder said? Wilder said, Eddie Hearn coming to us after everything is over with my fight and stuff like that, talking about offering a deal, Wilder explained to ES News. And my thing was, we're busy.
You're busy? You're too busy to have a dialogue and at least start the conversation?
Didn't have to be your next fight. But you got to start somewhere. You've got to have that dialogue to get that conversation off the ground. And Deontay Wilder's own words, his thing was that they are busy. So you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, Who ran from who?
The relationship that Deontay Wilder has with his supporters and his fans is an abusive relationship.
He regularly lies to them, misleads them, gaslights them.
Cheats them out of undisputed. He's cheated them out of an undisputed fight more than once through more than one era of boxing.
And all for what? So they can watch him get his ass kicked up and down the ring from pillar to post by Tyson Fury?
You can't believe a word this guy says. You can't.
We end up taking this little stroll down memory lane at a time when veteran trainer, now commentator Teddy Atlas, says that he feels Anthony Joshua has been an overrated guy. He was quoted as saying, with respect, fans in the UK love a good loser. Joshua knocked out Charles Martin, who's not on anybody's list of great fighters to win the title. He's been an overrated guy, Atlas said on his podcast. I can't say it any clearer or give you any better reason for it. Who has he beat? I say it again. Who has he beat? He's lost, and he's lost by way of knockout. All right, the last two to Usyk, he got hurt. He lost by decision. He showed heart, but he got knocked out by Ruiz, who took the fight on last-minute notice. I really believe that Joshua has always been overrated, but he can bring in big money.
I'll say this much. Who was Deontay Wilder fighting in his 16th professional fight? Who was Tyson Fury fighting in his 16th professional fight?
It's not that I think that Charles Martin is great, you understand. It's that I think he's better than the fighters those fighters were fighting in their 16th professional fights. 3 years into his professional career, Anthony Joshua was boxing for an alphabet title.
3 years into it. What was Wilder doing 3 years into his career? What was Tyson Fury doing 3 years into his career?
Anthony Joshua is the victim of many uneven assessments, just like this one. Teddy Atlas asks, who has he beat? He beat unbeaten Joseph Parker. He beat a guy that you used to train in Alexander Povetkin, a former Olympic gold medalist, a guy who beat a lot of guys at this weight.
What, you got amnesia, Teddy? You don't remember Alexander?
The truth is that Anthony Joshua has shown a level of consistency over time that Wilder didn't exhibit, and Tyson Fury to some degree. Tyson Fury is only here because of a gift decision he got over John McDermott.
A couple of fights he pulled out of. He pulled out of a Pulev fight, pulled out of an Ustinov fight.
It was a time when Tyson Fury versus a then unbeaten David Price was a conversation. He never got around to fighting that guy. Took a 2-year hiatus from the sport to get fat and sniff coke.
Stop me when I tell a lie.
Go ahead and do it. Point out to me, what fights has Anthony Joshua been pulling out of? What 2.5-year hiatus did he take from the sport? See, this guy looks like a guy to me who's likely burned out.
He keeps trying to live up to people's expectations, while Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, these guys, they're more divisive.
He's got people hounding him to take on Tyson Fury off of 2 back-to-back losses, while Deontay Wilder off of 2 back-to-back losses is fighting Robert Helenius.
But it's Anthony that's overrated.
Or is it just that the critics are too biased and too simple-minded or too lazy to do the research to see who's who?
Taking on Tyson Fury could very well backfire for Anthony Joshua. I don't dismiss that as a legitimate possibility.
But ask yourself a question. If Anthony were the unbeaten champion and it were Tyson Fury coming off of 2 back-to-back losses, do you think Anthony would be chasing him down?
This is the guy you consider the #1 heavyweight in the world.
This is what he's doing, and you ain't got nothing to say about it?
The truth is that Anthony can't win with some people, no matter what he does.
But at least for his sake, he's already made a fuck ton of money. He doesn't actually have to keep boxing. He wants to.